Hello, CTK. Welcome to another week of Michigan Experience class. This week, we are going to discuss the Upper Peninsula, which I'm very fond of. All right, let's begin with this map of the Upper Peninsula. This is just the different counties, and so you can see the shape of the Upper Peninsula. If you look right about here in this yellow odd shape, this is where I grew up and lived, and I believe Mrs. Carnes did also, but we'll have to have her explain where she lived. But I lived right about here, not very far from Lake Superior. It was wonderful. So let's go ahead and learn about the Upper Peninsula. Since I'm teaching this class and I'm from the Upper Peninsula, I get to pick what I want to talk about, which is awesome. So I'm going to just pick my most favorite things about the Upper Peninsula. One of my most favorite things is the Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore. So unique to the Upper Peninsula, and by far the largest summer attractions is the Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore. The name Pictured Rocks comes from the streaks of mineral stains that can be seen on the face of the weather sculpted cliffs. An array of colors occur when groundwater seeps through the cracks and trickles down the rock face. For instance, wherever there's iron, you'll see the red and orange color, and where there's copper, you'll see blue and green. And that's the same thing, different minerals for the black and the brown and the white. And that's what makes those really beautiful streaks on the rock face. And this is not very far from where I grew up, and so I often have gone kayaking here along this lake shore and have taken boat rides. I included some pictures from just last summer when we did rented a pontoon boat and got to see this cute little waterfall and all these awesome formations. It's just a real treat to be so close to something so beautiful that the Lord has created. Here's another awesome thing about the Upper Peninsula, which I'm not sure many of you have seen, but it is called Kitchidikippi. It is one of the UP's major attractions also. It's called Kitchidikippi, or the Big Spring. It is only 200 feet across and only 40 feet deep, but over 10,000 gallons a minute gush from many fissures, which are like these little cracks, in the underlying limestone. The flow continuing throughout the year at a constant 45-degree temperature, so that the spring never freezes and it can be enjoyed in any season of the year. So here's a picture from up above it. See how crystal clear that water is? You can see even where the water is bubbling up from those fissures. And then you can also see these really big fish that swim in the bottom. One time when we were there over the summer, we saw somebody's cell phone. They must have dropped it taking a picture, and it was at the very bottom, but we could see it perfectly. Here's another picture just showing the clarity of the water. And then this other picture is in the winter. And see, you can tell it's winter. All the trees are fully covered in snow, but no frozen water because the water stays at that constant 45-degree temperature. And the unique thing about this, so if you see, it almost looks like the top of a house in the middle of the spring. That's actually a giant floating raft. And if you see that string, it has a system where if people get on the boat, you guys take turns turning the wheel, and it will take you all the way across the spring and then back to the dock. And that way you get to see all the way across the spring through the bottom. So it's really fun and interesting. If you ever get a chance, I highly recommend stopping there. Here's another area I spent a lot of time growing up. It was at a place called Presque Isle. And when I was looking up information about Presque Isle, I found this really fun story I'm going to read to you guys. The story goes that in the summer of 1891, someone named Frederick Law Olmsted, a landscape architect, most famous for his role in designing New York City's Central Park, visited Marquette to work on a design project. To make the most of his visit, the city directed him to a large peninsula just north of town in hopes of designing a management plan to turn it into a suitable park. Upon touring the land, he gives the city a relatively straightforward advice that can be summed up in 3 words. Don't touch it. I thought that was a funny story. Presque Isle is one of the most visited sites in Marquette County. So here's some of the pictures just from the shoreline. Beautiful clear water, lots of wonderful, interesting rock formations, beautiful green trees and grass and shrubs. And the wonderful thing about this isle is you can drive, run, or bike through the park. The roadway goes through a tunnel of pines and hardwoods as you see glimpses of Lake Superior. And if on your journey you are sweating and you're hot, you can make a stop at the Black Rock and dive in. So here is a little video I'm going to show you of somebody doing just that. It says, this rock formation is a Marquette standard. Visitors can soak in the cool lake breeze or dive from a 10 to 15-foot cliff into the crystal clear water below. So here's a little video of some of these. That's what the rocks look like. Very large rock formation that's pretty flat. And here we go. Oh my goodness, this water is probably so cold. And oh my goodness, there he goes. Oh, and there it is. So you jump off those rocks and then you just swim to the shore that's just right around on the edge of there. Now, if you guys remember when we talked about the Great Lakes, I talked about the average temperature of Lake Superior, and it was only 40 degrees Fahrenheit. That is very chilly, but still people just can't help themselves. That water is beautiful. I actually have not jumped from there, but I'm pretty sure the Mr. Rileys at church have all done it, but I have not been tempted yet. So another thing about Presque Isle is sometimes there along the lakeshore there will get massive storms. I think Mrs. Carnes may have referred to this when we talked about the Great Lakes, but there's been a lot of shipwrecks. Well, Lake Superior can get very, very large storms. So in this next video I'm going to play, this is the same location where that gentleman just jumped off the rocks. I'm going to show you what it looks like when there is a storm there on the lakeshore. So just watch and listen. So there's the Black Rock. See those people jumping off, having a good time. But in October, look at this storm. Isn't that amazing? So powerful those waves looked. That seeing that video makes you really understand, wow, yeah, there could totally be shipwrecks in Lake Superior with waves like that. So those are 2 cool little videos I wanted to share with you. The next thing I'm going to share about was something that was literally in my backyard. And when I say in my backyard, I mean it was less than a mile from my house. and it is called the Eben Ice Caves. These have just more become really popular more recently. I think as more people visited and word got out, they've become more popular. So the Rock River Canyon Ice Caves, better known as the Eben Ice Caves, form when melting snow runs over the edge of a small cliff and freezes, forming ice caves. Much like large ice formations along the Grand Island National Recreational Area and the Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore. If you were to visit here in summer, you would see little to no running water over the edge. It's a perfect combination for slow snow melt and frigid temperatures that cause these caves of ice to form. So they're very beautiful. Here's a picture of the outside. You can tell they're like a little yellow and brown, but that's simply because of the minerals that are in the soil there. And when it melts and runs over and freezes, that's why it's that color. But then here's a picture of the inside. Oh, it's so beautiful. So yeah, those were not very far. I snowshoed out there a few times, and I didn't realize they were such an amazing thing. Now going back, I wish I would have paid more attention, but they're pretty cool to see. The next thing I just wanted to talk about in the UP, there's so many more places I could talk about and show you pictures of, but only so much time. So the one thing I was going to talk about, what the UP is really known for, is snow. So much snow in the UP, so much more than we have here in Detroit. And if you're saying, well, why do they get so much more snow than us? They get that much snow because of something called lake effect snow, because right there, most of the UP is really close to the Great Lakes. And lake effect snow forms when cold air passes over the warmer waters of the lake. This causes some lake water to evaporate into the air and warm it. This warmer, wetter air rises and cools as it moves away from the lake. When it cools, it dumps all that moisture on the ground. So look at the pictures of those ladies. It looks like somebody shoveled a snowpath to their building, and look how tall it was. That's a lot of snow. And even in this one picture, I included it because I think you do see it sometimes around here, but looks like this person is shoveling off their roof. In the UP, that's a very, very common occurrence because we would get so much snow and it would pack down and just keep building. Your roof could collapse eventually if there was too much weight on the roof. So often people have to get up there and not only shovel their driveway, but shovel off their roof too. So now I wanted to share something about this measurement thing here on the left side of the page. The highest snowfall ever recorded in the UP was in 1978 to 1979 at the Keweenaw County Snow Station with, get this, 390.4 inches of snow. So I didn't know they had this thing, but this is pretty cool. So here in Keweenaw County, if you look up here and go up, 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 up to this very top, that is how much snow they had in one winter season. That is incredible. And even if you're like, okay, that's just the all-time high. Well, their all-time low was right down here. That was back in 1999. That's still a lot of snow. And then it looks like every year right here they have a red arrow, and that keeps track of what was their last winter's total. Which, look at that, that was probably an average year, but look how incredibly high it was. Now you see that, and people wonder, what do they do with all that snow? Well, where I went to college, and Mr. Riley, we went to a college in a town called Houghton, Michigan, all the way up in the top of the little thumb part. And we would have something called Winter Carnival. And to celebrate the large amounts of snowfall each year that we received, we would have this carnival where we would build snow statues. And so there was different categories you could enter, but one of them was you had so many weeks to build the most elaborate and beautiful and big snow sculpture or statue or scene out of everybody else. And you couldn't use anything except snow. So a lot of your structures had to be made out of ice. So, I mean, obviously you could use water to make ice, but that was it. You couldn't use anything else. There's no metal structures or wood structures inside those snow sculptures that you see. Do you see this big giant dinosaur they made to make it look like Jurassic Park? And here this person made a little village. They made a little ice sculpture. So awesome. So that was just very fun to see. I participated in that as well. And it's just a fun thing to do with all that snow that we would get in the Upper Peninsula. All right, well, that's it for this week for sharing about the Upper Peninsula. For your homework this week, I want to know if you guys know what is the nickname for someone who is from the Upper Peninsula. And after you figure that out, I want to know, do you know the nickname for someone who lives below the Mackinac Bridge? You may know that one. And if you know that, I want you to post the answer with the help of your parents on Slack when you find out, okay? And another thing I'd like you to do, if you have time, is to pick from one of the options in the last few weeks. Maybe something you didn't do because you didn't have time or you didn't have the materials, but go ahead and do it. Do one of the coloring sheets, the TP, bake one of the items, play the game, but just have fun, no stress, and post it on Slack when you are done. All right, I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Mrs. Carnes will be posting again on Thursday about the Upper Peninsula. And I think that's it. All right, guys, you have a great week.